Your nervous system is your subconscious, which means that there are so many things that you feel, do, facial expressions that you make, facial expressions that you suppress on a day-to-day basis that you quite literally do not even know that you are doing, even when you are incredibly self-aware. And I wanted to make a video giving you an example of something that I experienced recently that showed me how powerful true somatic work is and why even a lot of my content struggles to scratch the surface or go deeper to describe real nervous system transformation because it's so bio-individual. I was at a retreat the other week, and one of the main modalities that we were focusing on was somatic touch work. And somatic touch work is so incredibly important. I think this is probably the next evolution of the work of my work that I'm going to get into, because as babies, we are really meant to evolve and develop our nervous system while we're experiencing secure attachment, a massive part of which comes from touch. And then also as we get older, having this attuned touch that allows our body to simultaneously feel that there is someone who is helping me be contained, someone who is helping me co-regulate, but also allows you to feel that you are a separate entity from that person. And so over time, you actually develop the ability to feel safe in contact and out of contact. And you trust that contact will return. And you also trust that you're able to hold yourself when contact with somebody else isn't present. We're all supposed to be able to feel this. That is more or less on a somatic level, a main part of secure attachment. Now, a lot of us do not experience this. We have anxious attachment, which is where we are really scared that the touch or the contact is going to leave. And so we grasp, or we are more avoidant, where we're scared to even have the touch in the first place. And I think most of us are probably somewhere on the disorganized spectrum, which is where it's kind of like, I want it so much that I don't want it at all. So like, touch me, but don't actually touch me. So this is what I got to experience when I was at my retreat. And if you've been following me, like I've literally been doing, in-depth somatic nervous system rewiring work for years. And so this was a really profound experience for me, where we were in this exercise where there were two women that were going to be doing somatic touch work on me. And the whole point of somatic touch work is also to be able to show and train your nervous system and your body what it is like to be in control of the kind of touch that you receive. So that's one of the ways that we also are able to support rewiring and safety. So I had one woman down literally just holding my feet. All I wanted was just some pressure on my feet. If you are hypermobile, you'll also know how good it feels to have somebody kind of support your skeleton. The other woman, I had literally just holding the bottom of my occipital bone, so holding my head. So this just felt really stabilizing for me. And this is the part, that gets very interesting. As I was sitting there, at first it felt really good. And then I started to kind of get this experience of anxiety in my body. And I started to notice this feeling. For the first time, I felt it so somatically. It wasn't a behavior. It wasn't a thought. It was not intellectual. It was truly in my body of feeling. I was like, I simultaneously want them to both stop touching me, but I also want them to never stop touching me. And I literally didn't know which one I wanted more. And it created this wave of activation in my body. And then my mentor, who's hosting the retreat, she came over and she definitely could kind of, attune, sense a bit what was going on. And her and I have been doing a lot of work. I've been doing also a lot of work on my pelvis, my hips, pelvic fascia, all that stuff. And so she asked, is there anywhere else that you feel that you would want support? And in that moment, I kind of had to decide, I'm like, am I going to lean into the contact or am I going to ask them to stop touching me? So I actually asked her to hover a hand over my womb space, over my pelvis. And when I did that, I felt the activation actually rise. And I asked her, or she then was like, can I put a hand under your sacrum and support you? And as soon as she made physical contact with my sacrum, I felt my body be able to lean in to the contact, and the part of me that wanted to push them away just kind of dissolved a little bit. And as soon as that happened, this wave of activation that I'd been feeling, it actually came out in a cry. And it literally, in my body, it was this cry, it carved out from my pelvis and up and out. And then this is where I actually started crying and sobbing. And also, if you've been following me, if you've been taking any of my programs, you know that I am a very big advocate, or I've spoken about before, the difference between organic somatic releases, which is what we want, which is what I had, versus the induced cathartic somatic releases that aren't even really somatic releases that we see a lot online with social media, where you do like a breath work or EFT tapping, or you go too deep into the body too quickly and actually forces a stress response from your body that we get told is a cathartic release when it's not. Versus this was completely led by my body and was completely based on safety and attunement. And that is like the major difference. And so over, doing this work for like 6 years, I've maybe experienced this level of organic release where it literally, like, there's like a big surge and a cry and then like a bigger sobbing fest, I think maybe 4 or 5 times. It is not something that we are aiming to have all the time, because there is actually a big release and a big reorganization in your nervous system that has to happen afterwards. And I wanted to share this because I am incredibly self-aware. Over the last however many years, as I've been dating especially, it's where my attachment patterns show up the most intensely. I've always just thought like, yeah, no, I'm just like more anxious. Like that's really like where I lean. And through doing a lot of work with my mentor and just continuously, orienting and attuning to my body, I have seen, there's a little bit of disorganization here. And then it was so funny because I really thought, asked me 3 months ago, oh my God, I'm totally aware of how my anxiety and my disorganization shows up in relationships. I know the behaviors, I know the feelings, nothing gets by me. And this is why I wanted to make this video, because I'm laughing, going through that experience. I was like, actually, I have never been that somatically connected and present with my body at the time of experiencing the push-pull of come closer and go away all at the same time. And so that was just something I literally didn't know until I knew. And that is a beautiful gift that our bodies will give us when we continuously are devoted to creating safety, especially for women, safety around the pelvis, safety with touch. And this is something that I teach in the Resource Women's Workshop, or the Resource Women's mini course, which is an incredible foundational course that will help you understand the female nervous system, how to start coming into contact with your pelvis, and really how to orient towards somatic safety as a woman. And I also go into this difference between nervous system resourcing and resolution. And what I experienced was resolution, which is what I think literally everybody needs. And so yeah, I wanted to share this because you can be the most incredibly self-aware women. And I mean, most of the women that I work with are very self-aware, and your body it holds everything. And I just really want to encourage you to keep going. I want to encourage you to keep learning how to use your own touch. Like that for me, I think was a massive factor. I've been really focusing on using my own touch for like over 2 years now, that I think actually prepped me to be able to have this experience. And then I also did a one-on-one touch session with my mentor, which literally low-key felt like an exorcism in like the best way possible. And like I was able to process a like near death drowning experience, which I've never been able to process virtually in a session. So all of this to say, your nervous system is your subconscious. It is intangible and tangible. It is simultaneously like the most important work that you'll ever do, and it also is very difficult to describe. And so if you are on this healing journey, I just really want to encourage you to keep going. And your body, once you continuously feel safer and safer and safer, will let go.